Chapter 2368, The Fate of the Scene 1. Your prophetic abilities are indeed formidable, but your weakness, Zhang Yi has already informed me of it. That weakness is severing karma. Gao Changkong stared at Emperor Indra, stating the cold, ruthless truth. Over 100 simulated battles, fueled by his growing power, had finally revealed the key to defeating Emperor Indra. As his ability index surged to 36,000 points, the reincarnation theory of the meditation seal grew increasingly indistinguishable from reality. Until it could warp others' karma. The collision between the reincarnation theory and the seven treasure golden steps power, a clash between foresight and counter-foresight, made the battle scenes the seven treasure golden steps could predict spiral out of control. This also indirectly proved that Gao Changkong's combat prowess had completely surpassed that of Emperor Indra. Gao Changkong raised the Sun Will sacred sword in his hand, his gaze fixed on the final tier of Emperor Indra's seven treasure golden steps. One last attempt remains. This time, I'll kill you. And this time, you'll truly be dead. Emperor Indra's heartbeat raced frantically as the possibility of death closed in. 6 simulations. All failed. No matter how he struck, Gao Changkong could counter every attack and drive him to the brink. Indra, become a thing of the past. All of this land of Brahma, I, Gao Changkong, claim it. Gao Changkong slashed his sword through the air. The Sun Will sword erupted in dazzling golden light, transforming into a surging torrent of strange energy that completely engulfed the space before Indra. Yet even so, Indra remained unshaken. His eyes flickered with an eerie, otherworldly light. He made no attempt to dodge, abandoning defense entirely. Gao Changkong sensed something strange. Has he foreseen his own death? No. I saw destiny. Emperor Indra pressed his palms together, offering himself up as if preparing for martyrdom, offering no resistance whatsoever. Garuda, you forget. I am Anand Sharma. I was a seer long before this world entered its ice age. Gao Changkong furrowed his brow, unsure how this man intended to resolve this fatal conclusion. The next instant, the cage forged solely for Emperor Indra shattered with a thunderous boom. An impenetrable darkness seeped forth, obscuring everything around them, even the sky vanished from sight. Within the hazy black mist, a figure slowly materialized. Cloaked in black armor from head to toe, crowned upon his head, his dark crimson eyes blazed with an intimidating light. And the one who cut through private paradise, was none other than the colossal two-handed war sword in his grasp. Feeling the overwhelming aura emanating from the figure, Gao Changkong's expression abruptly changed. Another spiritual polluter, a dark apostle of the demon god Samel, had appeared. Emperor Indra stood motionless, his voice calm as he declared, I told you I would not die. For I am destiny itself. Anand Sharma, the prodigious seer born with the divine power of Brahman, possessing the innate ability to foresee the future. His prophecies of the future were hazy and distant, yet never once in error. While Zhang Yi's the second hand of time could glimpse 5 seconds ahead, Anand Sharma saw 5 years, even 50. In the predetermined future, he did not die today. Thus, even with a sword drawn upon him, he remained utterly unafraid. I must seek out chaos. This is my true path. Unfettered by the confines of his private paradise, Emperor Indra unfurled the heavenly exalted parasol and swiftly departed, his feet stepping upon the 7 treasure golden steps. As the 7 treasure golden steps dimmed layer by layer, Gao Changkong knew he had found the optimal escape route by wielding his power against the shadow swordsman. But now, how would he escape? Gao Changkong stared at the shadow swordsman. The swordsman slowly turned his neck, fixing his gaze upon Gao Changkong. Just 1 step away. Gao Changkong sighed. Still, making this guy an enemy of Zhang Yi means it wasn't all for nothing. The so-called manipulation by Yang Xinqin, turning him into a puppet to attack Emperor Indra, was also part of his plan. If it failed, he could easily shift all blame onto Zhang Yi. By provoking conflict between Emperor Indra and Zhang Yi, he stood to gain regardless of who perished. Still, failing to kill Emperor Indra during such a golden opportunity truly stung as a missed chance. Deep within the dark sun forest, a twisted grove of dead trees had formed a rare, small circular clearing. The air here seemed slightly purer than elsewhere, at least the maddening whispers grew fainter within it. Fengu leaned against the trunk of a giant tree, half petrified by the environment. His signature charred bone armor bore several fresh cracks. Even he faced considerable danger venturing into this domain infested with spiritually corrupted madmen. Yet here, they were safest. He knew every soul across the entire moon was frantically searching for them. Step outside, and they were finished. He cautiously scanned the surroundings, confirming temporary safety before turning his attention to the quiet girl seated beside him. Meteor was wearing an unusually pristine white silver moon gown, starkly out of place amidst the filthy environment. Her eyes, though clear, stared unfocused into the void, her long lashes occasionally fluttering lightly. Here. Fengu extracted a sealed small box from his inner pocket. Opening it revealed several faintly glowing nutritional pills. His voice was low, yet unexpectedly gentle. The girl tilted her head slightly, accurately looking toward the source of the sound. She extended her hand, catching the pills with precision, her movements fluid and uncharacteristic of someone blind. "Thank you." Her voice was light, like wind rustling through wind chimes. Fengu watched her swallow the pills, the gaze beneath his charred mask softening momentarily. He swallowed one himself, then resumed scanning the surrounding deadwood forest with vigilance. "How much longer must we walk?" Meteor asked softly. "We're almost there," Fengu's voice was steady. "Once we find the Night Witch, she can heal your eyes. Then, we'll be safe." He had said these words many times, yet each utterance carried the same unwavering certainty. Meteor fell silent for a moment, her slender fingers unconsciously rubbing the hem of her skirt. "Fengu," she asked suddenly, "what about the people outside? What happens to them if we just leave like this? Won't our departure cause them trouble?" Her question made Fengu pause slightly. He turned to look at the girl's face, pure to a fault, her vacant eyes seeming to pierce through the heart. "You don't need to be responsible for anyone." Fengu's voice grew deeper. "In this world, simply surviving is the greatest meaning." He paused, then added, "Besides, the world outside is no longer the place we once knew. Staying or leaving won't change the outcome." Chapter 2369, The Fate of the Scene 2. Hearing Fengu's words, Meteor lowered her head slightly, her pale fingers tightening ever so slightly. "But I can feel it," her voice grew even softer, "so many people are suffering. Sometimes, I can hear their cries, even from this great distance." From a very young age, she had known her destiny. Everyone around her cherished her deeply, granting her nearly everything she desired. She absorbed vast quantities of precious energy sources. Though never taught combat techniques, she possessed power that even the Silver Moon Guardians marveled at. Her brief 50 years were enveloped in joy and freedom. Even when her beloved elder sister, Xiulianyan, told her that one day she would become a fire seed, sacrificed to the supreme beings upon the Silver Moon throne, she accepted it all with serenity. It was that encounter with Fengu that changed everything. She did not fear death. Yet a tiny speck of selfishness, born in the blossoming season of youth, led her to take his hand when he arrived that day and flee that gilded cage. Fengu fell silent for a moment. He knew Meteor spoke the truth, her unique perception always captured what others missed. "Everyone has their own life and reason for being," he said. "And my purpose is to let you live happily and freely. That is all." He rose to his feet, his bone armor emitting a faint scraping sound. "You've rested enough. We must continue. The sooner we find the Night Witch, the sooner you can escape these invisible eyes." Meteor's blindness was not natural, it was the work of the brilliant Moon Empire. Possessing a sound body and overwhelming power meant the fire seed held immense potential to spiral beyond control. Thus, this was no simple physical ailment, conventional treatments could scarcely restore her sight. Meteor obediently rose, reaching out to grasp the edge of the bone armor Fengu offered. Her movements were practiced, clearly having walked this path with him for a long journey. Just as they prepared to depart, Feng suddenly whipped around, shielding Meteor behind him. His charred bone armor instantly glowed with a dark crimson light, like a volcano on the verge of eruption. In the shadows of the deadwood forest, something was drawing nearer. Imperial forces, chasing us despite the danger of death? Feng's hand pressed against the hilt of the sword at his waist, his voice turning cold. "Stay behind me. Don't move an inch." Meteor nodded softly. Her pale face showed no fear, only complete trust. She couldn't see the impending danger, but she could feel the taut muscles beneath Feng's bone armor and the sudden surge of killing intent in the air. The dark sun forest never granted long moments of breathing room, and their journey was still long. The deeper they ventured into the dark sun forest, the more sparse the light became. The black mist was too thick. Even during the lunar day on the far side of the moon, sunlight struggled to pierce the fog. Zhang Yi and his companions relied on the night vision devices in their combat suits. The trees here, or rather, the peculiar black organisms formed by feeding on lunar corpse remains, took on increasingly grotesque forms. Some branches twisted into poses resembling human agony, while crimson viscous fluid oozed from cracks in the bark, emitting a sickly sweet stench of decay. Zhang Yi, Yang Xinxin, and Brian moved through the forest, their footsteps crunching unpleasantly on the thick, soft sand of decaying leaves and unidentified debris. "This place reeks like a layered pastry, each layer more revolting than the last," Brian muttered. A mutated white Labrador, its fur remained relatively clean, but its snout glistened wet from constant sniffing. Its supernatural abilities granted it extraordinary senses and verbal skills, making it the squad's most reliable guide at this moment. Chaos, death, and that indescribable madness, like rotten cheese. It suddenly halted, nose pressed to the ground, sniffing intently. Its tail hung low and alert, then began whipping rapidly like a small electric fan. Woof woof woof. Wait. A familiar scent. Faint, drowned out by these ghostly odors, but unmistakable. Yang Xinxin stood silently nearby, her skirted combat suit utterly still in the nearly stagnant air. Her gaze fixed on the spot Brian was sniffing, her deep obsidian eyes seeming to pierce through layers of decaying plant matter. "What is it?" Zhang Yi asked, his voice sounding slightly deeper than usual. The further they ventured in, the more he felt an intangible pressure, like a damp, cold spiderweb tangling around his spirit. "It's the scent left by that ink shadow warrior called Fengdu, and that girl whose eyes couldn't be seen." It had sniffed the garments worn by those two, enabling it to track their scent. Brian lifted his head, his dog face wearing an almost human expression of gravity. "Fengdu and Meteor. Their scent leads deeper into the forest. It hasn't been that long, maybe 3 to 5 days, no more than a week at most. Follow them." Zhang Yi's gaze sharpened slightly, his words concise and to the point. Finding Fengdu might yield more clues about the night witch or the forest's center. And when that time came, another major battle would be unavoidable. Finding Fengdu and Meteor, bringing Meteor back, that would mean the end of her life. But so what? If it meant preventing the moon's shattering, averting the impact that would plunge Earth into true apocalypse, even exterminating the entire lunar race, he would spare no cost. The 2 humans and 1 dog pressed onward, navigating the intricate forest terrain guided by Brian's nose. He kept his head low, his large black nose sniffing intently. Gases collected by the scent detector flowed into his combat suit, aiding his identification. The surrounding silence grew thicker, even the wind's murmur fading away. Only their own footsteps and breaths echoed distinctly. Zhang Yi felt his temples throbbing faintly, tiny flickering black dots appearing at the edges of his vision. "Brother Zhang Yi," Yang Xinxin suddenly spoke, her eyes filled with deep concern yet not panic. "Are you okay?" Zhang Yi frowned. He felt his emotions growing chaotic and irritable, as if a layer of sticky, murky substance had coated the surface of his mind. "It's mental pollution," he said in a low voice. "More insidious than anything we've encountered before. Like water wearing away stone." He attempted to erect a barrier using the dimensional gate to shield himself from the mental contamination. But the pollution seeped in relentlessly, not through direct assault but by insidiously warping his perception. After all, this wasn't a physical attack, it was a mental assault. Against everything under heaven, which functioned almost like a cheat code on the physical plane, there was little effective defense. Chapter 2370, The Fate of the Scene 3. The corruption of the spirit seeps into every crevice. This sensation was all too familiar to Zhang Yi. He had experienced something similar back in Mammon's sealed domain. But clearly, the power of Samel, the sin of wrath, was far more repulsive than that of the slumbering Mammon. Gradually, the scene before Zhang Yi's eyes began to shift. At times normal, at times distorted, morphing into all manner of grotesque forms. Zhang Yi rubbed the visor of his combat suit, a rather self-deceptive gesture. This feels a bit like motion sickness. Twisted trees seemed to come alive, their branches undulating like tentacles. The ground no longer oozed dark red fluid but thick, bubbling black sludge. Most eerie of all, Zhang Yi saw cold black flames begin to coil around his hands, then his entire body. This flame held no heat, yet it seared his very soul with a burning pain and a thirst. The illusion intensified abruptly. He found himself no longer in the forest, but standing upon a boundless wasteland. The sky was an eternal blood-red twilight, the earth cracked and barren, devoid of any vegetation. But when he opened his eyes again, it had suddenly transformed into a blue sky with white clouds. He stood atop a lush mountain range, the ground covered in tender, vibrant green grass. The wind blew past him, today feeling slightly more boisterous than usual. This illusion feels incredibly real, Zhang Yi couldn't help but mutter under his breath. Just as he was about to recite Wang Shoren's Heart Sutra to calm his mind and restore his senses, a human figure appeared on the vast plain. A handsome youth clad in a simple linen robe sat leisurely on a rock, a shepherd's crook in hand. His features were so perfect they seemed unreal, a gentle smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Yet his eyes were deep, black whirlpools that seemed capable of swallowing all light. A blade of grass dangled from his teeth as he herded a flock of sheep grazing across the plain. His appearance gave Zhang Yi a feeling as if he'd stepped through time. He looked exactly like him. Over half a year ago, he had experienced a similar sensation. That other being had taken the form of Li Changgong, accompanying him through adventures in a fantastical kingdom. That person, no, that entity, was known by the title, the sin of greed, Mammon. Guests have arrived. Welcome, welcome. The youth spoke, his voice clear and melodious like mountain spring water, yet carrying an ancient resonance that reverberated directly within Zhang Yi's mind. He lifted his head and smiled at Zhang Yi, his face bearing a harmless, gentle expression. Zhang Yi watched him warily, space energy surging within him, poised to strike. Though the other showed no aggressive intent, Zhang Yi instinctively remained on high alert. Samel. He uttered the name. Not as a question, but as a confirmation. Only that Drucker Titan, renowned for his fury and symbolizing primal desires, could emit such pure spiritual corruption. The youth, Samel's incarnation, smiled faintly, offering no denial. He tapped a cluster of green grass lightly with a shepherd's crook. A white sheep nibbled several blades, chewing them noisily in its mouth. Do you see? Grass absorbs nutrients and moisture from the soil, growing tenaciously. Then sheep eat the grass, sustaining their lives and multiplying. Finally, his gaze settled on Zhang Yi. Those black, vortex-like eyes seemed to pierce through everything about him. Humans eat sheep, gaining strength, prolonging life. Then, the youth tilted his head, his smile unchanged. Can humans just eat grass directly? Or nibble on the soil? Zhang Yi frowned, staring at Samel's incarnation as he pondered the question deeply. Either he was bored out of his mind and teasing him, or there was some deeper meaning. But then again, an ancient being that had lived billions of years probably wouldn't be that bored. The question seemed simple, yet it pointed directly to a cruel rule. The conversion and transmission of energy involved hierarchy and efficiency. Directly absorbing the lowest level energy source was often inefficient or even harmful for higher life forms. Observe, Samuel's voice carried a hint of seduction. Sheep graze on grass, humans consume sheep. This is nature's law, the ladder of evolution. Devouring is the most primal, most potent force in the cosmos. Why resist it? Does not the same instinct to devour flow within you? The black flames surrounding Zhang Yi burned even more intensely within the illusion. He felt an overwhelming urge to devour everything before him, the earth, the withered grass, even the handsome shepherd boy. This instinct stemmed from the Mad Falcon's origin essence he had absorbed, from the shared source of the Drucker divine power, now amplified infinitely by Samuel. Devour. Evolve. Zhang Yi's thoughts began to spin into chaos, the black flames threatening to consume his last shred of reason. He felt himself sliding into an endless abyss, where only primal hunger and satiation existed. Just as his consciousness was about to be swallowed whole by the darkness, a cold, clear voice, like an absolute rule, resounded deep within his soul, cutting through all chaos. Judgment rule, external mental contamination level exceeded threshold. Triggering baseline defense protocol. Executing purification procedure. It was Yang Xinxin's voice. No, it felt more like some kind of antivirus software she had pre-programmed and imprinted into his consciousness had been activated. The Herscher's arrow, preemptively embedded within Zhang Yi's body, activated. In an instant, Zhang Yi saw within his own body, now engulfed in black flames, countless fine, precise blue lines illuminate like circuit boards. These lines spread rapidly, extinguishing and dissipating the black flames wherever they passed, as if encountering their nemesis. The mesmerizing image of the shepherd boy began to twist and blur, emitting a silent roar before shattering completely like a broken mirror. The illusion receded. Zhang Yi snapped his eyes open, a momentary look of bewilderment flashing through them before vanishing. Unnoticed, cold sweat had soaked his back. He still stood in the shadowy forest, Yang Xinxin beside him, Brian vigilantly guarding ahead, the dog's eyes fixed nervously on him. Dude, what were you zoning out about? Elle thought you secretly rewarded yourself and entered sage mode. The infamous dog chuckled smugly. I get it, bro. I totally understand. Next time we can duo Q. Zhang Yi shot him a fierce glare. I still prefer fully automatic mode. Manual's not my thing. You know, I don't even drink hand-brewed coffee. You just entered a deep mental illusion. Yang Xinxin stated calmly. My preset cognitive anchor rule activated. It forcibly resets your perception back to reality when your consciousness becomes severely corrupted.